And so we're here to do the discussions on how we can, as a country, improve the sector tourism and relatively discuss how investment can trickle in and have the influx a lot more of the tourists from the outside, and how we also locally can make sure we partake in it. But what other relevant services are there? And talking about services, one entity that provides a lot more services across Africa, has a chapter in Ghana or a branch, is Jumia Travel. We're here to do discussion on tourism in Africa, in Ghana, West Africa, and Jumia Travel Ghana is represented by Claire Stahl. Thanks for joining me, Claire.
Thank you very much.
Right. And also I have with me from the Ghana Authority, the Ghana Tourism Authority, Alex Boakye. He's from the Quality Assurance Unit of the Authority. Thanks for joining me, sir.
Thank you.
You're good?
Good.
And an awards night was convened. When was that, over the weekend?
Yeah, last Friday.
Okay. What was it? It's the number in what series? The series 18?
12.
The 12. Foremostly for you as an authority and mandated to make sure you have an oversight responsibility over the sector, how well do you think we've done over the last, let's say, 10 years?
Yes, I would say we've done quite pretty well, but there's still room for improvement. In terms of visitation and receipts that we make out of tourism has been growing over the years. Presently, we are doing about 1 million tourists a year, and it's generating about $2 billion a year. So it's been progressing over the years, and as I said earlier on, I think there's still room for improvement.
No, that also means that we would have been investing enough to be able to see the growth that you say we have seen over the last 10 years. Have we invested enough, committed our resources?
I wouldn't say we've invested enough, and as I said, there's still room for improvement by way of investment as well.
Okay.
Yes, because we have a lot of opportunities as far as tourism is concerned in this country. It's an emerging destination. Ghana is an emerging destination, and there are so many ways that we can develop our tourist sites to make it more interesting and exciting. And for that reason, when tourists come around, they can stay longer and also, more importantly, spend more money at the destination, which will also have positive rippling effects on the entire economy. So there is a lot of investment opportunities in the tourism sector. Amongst them is we have limited number of upmarket hotels. And when I say upmarket hotels, I'm referring to the 3 to 5 star hotels, which we have just about 56 all over the country. And you know, most affluent international tourists would like to put up in these hotels. And these hotels too, they have the capacity to employ more people. So as they expand and they are able to fill their rooms, it creates employment opportunities for especially the youth in our country. So opportunities of investment in the tourism abound abounds quite a lot.
Yeah, and I was reading about Jumia just before we came into the studio, and especially once you're spread across Africa, Nigeria, Kenya, and all those notable destinations, it means that you have a spread on what the market holds in Africa. But particularly in a country like Ghana, where it's very much infantile, what do you say are your own observations comparatively with what happens elsewhere in the world or on the continent, in our country, per your own observation, that you think perhaps we need to beef up on?
So I do agree with Alex. I think there's still a lot that can be done. If I look, for example, at a market like Nigeria, who's a bit more developed, they have way more upgraded hotels, so they also immediately attract more foreign tourists. Plus, I think the economy there is a bit more established than here, which of course also attracts more people to come and visit the country for business purposes. If I look at more the entertainment, like, you know, the parks that we have in this country, the entertainment in Nigeria is also bigger, and I think they have a lot of more tourist places to go to, and it's more attractive, and I think Ghana can definitely learn from Nigeria on this topic. Yes.
I see. For example, you have your operations in Kenya as well.
Yes.
We know Kenya is among the heartbeats of tourism in Africa. They have a safari, they have a lot more to showcase. If you look at the commitment or the development of their tourist sites, and you compare it to, let's say, Ghana, what would be the rating for you?
So Ghana is very small compared to Kenya. It's also because we already operate more longer time in Kenya than we do in Ghana. Ghana is only for 1.5 years now. Kenya about 3 years. Yeah, Kenya, of course, they have more tourist places. They have the beautiful parks, the safaris, as you mentioned. So for tourists, it's definitely a better place to go to than that they would think immediately about Ghana. Yes, for sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
Mr. Boakye, if we were investing enough, let's say as a country we had that commitment financially, would we be able to upgrade the identifiable touristic areas to be the standard by which the influx will be a lot more?
Yeah, thank you. Sure, that is the way to go. And let me first make this statement. Ghana abounds in a lot of tourism resources, which Kenya and Nigeria cannot be compared to. For instance, Ghana has a lot to market in terms of natural attractions, which includes the flora and the fauna, the wildlife, which you find at Mole National Park. We also have a number of Ramsar sites, which are good for bird watching, and we also have a number of mountains and hills, which are also good for trekking and hiking. So we have a bit of the natural attraction, which probably the challenge there is that they are in their rudimentary form. We need to develop it and enhance it so that it will become more interesting and exciting for visitors to go there and also spend more time there. In addition to that, we have our strength in culture. We have a chieftaincy institution which has collapsed in most parts of the world but remains intact in Ghana. And we have centuries-old kingdom. You talk of the Ashanti kingdom, which you wouldn't find anywhere. And our way of life, basically our way of life, our music and dance, they are our attractions. You talk of our interesting and exciting festivals like the Boakye. You won't find it anywhere. Catch a live there. Beyond the culture, where I think we have our strength as a tourist destination, we also have our historical heritage, which is an asset for roots pilgrimage tourism. You talk of the Cape Coast Castle, Elmina Castle. It's a major asset for the Africans in diaspora who want to visit the homeland, the motherland. In addition to that, we have man-made attractions like the Kwame Nkrumah Mausoleum, the Independence Arc. So we have kind of a bit of everything. But where I agree with Claire is that most of them are in their rudimentary form, as I said. So we need to develop it and enhance it to make it more interesting and exciting for visitors to go to those places and also participate in our event attractions like festivals like Boakye. Fortunately, we have the Tourism Development Fund, which we've started utilizing it to enhance some of these products. So we are actually working on the enhancement of our tourist sites to make it more interesting.
You keep talking about rudimentary, you mean undeveloped? Or partially developed?
Yes, partially developed.
Rudimentary, you mean?
Yes, that's what I mean.
But of course, we do have. But if you compare us, for example, to Benin, and I've been to Benin, yes. I've been to a number of countries on the continent, they all have the cultural heritage a lot more pronounced than we do, especially in Nigeria, etc. So I guess that's where they have a lot more competitive advantage than we do, complementing the better economy they have than ours. in terms of how big a size and well-developed the structures are. Is that not the case for the Ghana Tourism Authority?
In the case of Nigeria, maybe that may be the case, the size of the economy. But in terms of the cultural attraction, I'm convinced that we have a lot to offer. Maybe we need to do more in terms of marketing and promoting these cultural attractions. But I believe we have more to offer than these destinations.
Claire, how difficult is it to sell, let's say, 5 destinations in Africa and Ghana is among? Not in a negative way, I mean, we're just talking. And how extra, as somebody who is selling a service, do you have to go as in length or a mile to convince a customer to sign on?
No, not at all. I actually think Ghana is a country that is very easy to visit and to go to. We have, for example, 50% Nigerians that are traveling to Ghana on our platform. So because we have the background of 40 countries where we operate, we see a lot of Africans traveling to Ghana, especially Nigerians. I still believe Ghana is quite a peaceful country, also for foreign people to come. So I think it's
not quite, very peaceful.
Very, very peaceful, yes, very peaceful. So I do believe there's still a lot of people that come to Ghana, yes.
Are those variables or those indicators, are those good enough? Because they are transient, you don't see them. Are those good enough to attract tourists? Let's say peace, stable democracy, you know, that kind
I definitely think so, yeah. If you look at election periods where people still, you know, especially foreign people, they're a bit afraid to travel to Ghana or Nigeria or any other country because of selection. So as soon as we do peace campaigns and we make them aware that it's going to be, you know, okay to come and still visit Ghana, I think that definitely helps, yes.
You are not afraid during the election, are you? Because
no, I'm not, okay. No.
But what really, as an authority, have you identified could be the challenges in the immediate to long term that you have identified, but you feel that you can, with the resources that you've been assured and have, you can work on?
Yes, first and foremost, as I keep saying, is enhancing the product, the tourism product. Because visitors will come here because of the tourism products. But when they come, then they will look for a place to stay. So you need to first get the product right. You don't go out there and promote a lousy product. So we first have to work on enhancing the product. As I keep saying.
What I want you to tell me as an authority, because you are the foremost authority, so what is in your strategy for which you feel you need to use in doing the enhancements?
Yes, thank you very much. Yes, we've, with the advent of the Tourism Development Fund, we've started coming up with conceptual designs to enhance some of these attractions. And we've also been offering technical assistance to communities and those who own tourist sites as to how best they can develop it and make it more interesting. And then also go beyond that and use the Tourism Development Fund to support the development of these sites. Now, beyond developing the tourist sites, we are also working on the marketing and promotion of the destination. Now we are improving on the signage to tourist sites. We are also coming up with more visible promotional materials. Yes. And I must also say that we are also in discussion with government through the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts for us to improve upon the infrastructure to and at tourist sites. For instance, the road to Kakum National Park is not in a very good state now, and it has affected visitation, as well as the bridge at Elmina, which has also affected visitation to the Elmina Castle. And these are major draw attractions. Fortunately for us, the president was in Cape Coast and has assured us that the road to Kakum will be fixed very soon. And the Elmina Bridge as well will also be fixed, hopefully, quite soon, and to improve visitation to these sites. Now, in addition to the product enhancement and the vintage and aggressive marketing strategy that we've embarked on, we also are working towards improvement on quality service delivery, maintaining quality standards, so that our guests. Yeah.
Really?
Yes, we are working on it. It's a major challenge, but we are working on it. Recently, we've embarked on a training program for those in the hospitality industry, training them in the area of front office management, housekeeping, and food and beverage service. And this is mainly sponsored by the Tourism Development Fund. So it's basically free.
I see.
Yes. So those are some of the ways that we are working on the improvement of service delivery, so that the visitors who come around can have good experience here and they can have value for money when they check in into these hotels and restaurants, and they are kind of enjoy their stay in Ghana in the main.
Claire.
And then also we are working on getting the right figures in terms of visitation and expenditure, so that we can make the right projections. So we are in touch with Ghana Immigration Service. Now we are getting the actual figures through analyzing the embarkation and disembarkation costs, which hitherto we were using projected figures. But fortunately, we've gone far with the Immigration Service, and we're going to get the actual figures, which will help in terms of planning, making projections and planning for the sector.
Very good. For example, you go to South Africa, or you go to countries like Northern Africa, for example, in Egypt, where tourism is a mainstay of the economy, etc. And because it employs a lot more people, they serve you knowing that, well, they may have their own cultural tendencies, whether they are stereotyping, etc. But once you're a visitor, they see you as a customer. What do you think are the drawbacks, and what feedback do you get from clients in Ghana when they come to visit about some of those relativities?
Well, I think where Ghana still has a lot to improve is definitely professionalism. Like, people really, as Mr. Alex also mentioned, we need to train them on how to serve, how to be polite, how do you do your customer service. I mean, I think Ghana is really behind if we talk about customer service. It's all about, you know, you want the guests to come back to your hotel, to use your service again. And I think this is something that we all need to work on. And it's not only Mr. Alex that needs to work on this, it's also Jumia Travel that needs to work on this. Mr. Alex is promoting the destinations, but so am I. I mean, we are all in the same sector, so we should all try to support each other as much as possible, and bring good customer service and train people on how to deliver that service, so that people will keep coming back, because that's the most important.
In order to get what is the best practice from elsewhere, they always say that you need to have the right strategies in place. And you, as private sector, how do you think you can complement that? Not on the policy side, of course, but on your side.
I think every person that comes, you know, that has a certain background, so everybody brings something new in, and I think you should look at the positive things of each person. I mean, I studied hospitality in the Netherlands, and now I'm in Ghana trying to bring my knowledge over to Ghanaians. I think if everybody puts his part in place, I think this will definitely help. Also means that Jumia Travel might need to think out of the box and not think only about selling hotel rooms or selling tourist packages, but now we might need to think also, okay, if we bring those guests to a hotel, how are we gonna, you know, make sure that those guests keep coming back to the hotel? And we take a certain part of the customer service into our responsibility, but it's also important that when the guest arrives at the hotel that he gets a good service there as well. So it doesn't only stop by booking a hotel room on Jumia Travel, and it goes way beyond that. So.
And that's what you do. You try to follow through.
Yes, for sure. We follow the whole
chain,
process.
The chain.
From the moment the guest checks in until the moment the guest checks out. Yes.
I see. Very interesting. But then, how do you collaborate better with the private sector then?
Yes. As you may be keenly aware, we regulate the sector by way of registering and licensing them. And we just don't do that we also from time to time organize training programs for the private sector, and also try and convene meetings to find out from them what some of their challenges are, and then together find ways of resolving those issues. For instance, the training program that we organized for the hospitality industry, we needed to, as part of doing the needs assessment for the training program, to come up with the training curricula. We needed to talk to the private sector to get their input to inform the kind of training that we offer. So we regularly do engage the private sector to find ways of resolving the challenges that they are going through, with the main objective of pushing the industry forward. We are managers of the sector, but the tourism sector is driven by the private sector. In fact, it's mainly a private sector activity, but we, as I said, regulate and manage it. So,
Clyde, do you think that the state institutions, let's say the Ghana Tourism Authority, the Ghana Investment Promotion Center, and Ministry of Tourism, and the allied agencies tend to provide the structures for, let's say, would-be investors? If somebody wants to come in and provide some other service beyond hospitality, or let's say accommodating people, do you think those structures are there to facilitate the private sector, especially foreign investors, to come and invest?
I think, well, Ghana Association...
Don't be afraid.
Okay.
I know it can
Ghana
be a bit
Association
yeah.
already has certain structures in place whereby you can be part of the Ghana Association group per region. They have also weekly meetings, so I do think it's an easy entry if you want to start your own business, to see how you can be part of that. I do believe that there's still a lot more that can be done. For example, if you want to start a hotel, it's not that easy. It's a big investment, first of all, and it's not as easy for a foreign to come and build a business here. It comes with very high fees, so you always have to involve a Ghanaian in your business, which of course is also a risk if you're not too close to any Ghanaian. So I think still a lot needs to be put in place. I also think that Ghana is trying to protect itself from too many foreigners to come into the country and start their business here. I think that's also why the fees are quite high to open businesses here.
Because isn't it also because we feel that they'll repatriate the money out, and so something needs
I guess so, yes.
Do you think that there's that level of technological transfer? Of course, this is a service industry. It doesn't really, but is there a transfer of the best knowledge and practices to local resources or personnel?
I think businesses like for example Jumia Travel, who are managed from Europe but then established in Africa, and bring a lot of extra employment, bring a lot of extra business to the country. I mean, we are here to support the country. We are not here to, to take the money and bring it to another country. So I think that businesses like Jumia Travel are really supporting the economy. Yes.
But there's one thing that you don't do enough. You don't do activations. You don't do a lot more promotion in terms of branding on international media, etc. You do that, you could get a whole mileage and a lot of traction.
Yeah, you're right. You are very much right. Yes, I guess we need to do more in that direction. But you would also agree with me that, I mean, advertising in the international media requires heavy financial outlay, and that has been a bit of a hindrance. But fortunately, through the efforts of the Honorable Minister of Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts, we would be advertising on CNN very soon. And as I said, fortunately, we also have the support of the Tourism Development Fund. So you see us embarking on a very vintage marketing strategy, which will include advertising in the international media.
I see. Claire, in such instances where businesses, and in this third country, tends to create a certain mindset that they have a certain value if they access a certain service, or let's say this time come to a country and they come to experience a service, and that moment of truth they don't get that value they wanted. Is it a positive thing or a negative thing? Does it really set it back, or perhaps give it a chance for that very country to improve?
I think if we speak open and honest here,
No,
I think
honestly.
a lot of foreign people who come to Africa already don't expect the same, you know, service that they get in Europe or America.
So when they come, they know that they are coming to
a developing
developing
country, which means you probably won't get the same service. This also means that there's a lot of hotel bookings for, you know, the Holiday Inns, the Ibis styles, you know, the Movenpicks. Why? Because they know these brands already and they are worldwide. They provide the same service. So they rather book for those hotels, so they are guaranteed of the service that they are getting. Also, from another point of view, we like to see local things as foreigners who come to Ghana.
You don't want
so
to come and see the things in your country.
yeah, well, business people probably do, but you know, if you come for a holiday, you want to experience the Ghana culture, you want to experience everything that comes with it. So you will not book for your holiday and in that instead, but you'll book maybe for a local guest house, so you get more of that experience. But that of course comes with a certain service that might be lesser than what you get in your own country. But I don't see that as something really negative, no.
Okay.
I think it's just something we can work on and that people already know when they come to Ghana, yeah.
Mr. Boakye, so how about us having the sites and the attractions as they are, but then complementing that with the right structures like very good restaurants that serve top of the class meals and top of the class service, perhaps very good shuttle services well coordinated by the tourism authority via the private sector, etc. How about having such things? Because you can have the raw cultural sites or destinations, but the supporting services are top class.
All those things are part of the product development. You go to, let's say, Kakum National Park, you go through the canopy walkway, you walk on trees, which you wouldn't find in most parts of the world. One of the few destinations that people can walk on trees. After that, what else? You create these things around.
Have you created?
That is what I said we are working towards. Presently, we have some of them at some of the tourist sites. For instance, Kakum, we have a restaurant there. But the service can be better than as it is presently. So those are the things that I'm talking about. You need to create these things. These are avenues for spending.
Are you doing them?
We are working on them. You see, as a public agency, we don't do it. We facilitate the
Are you facilitating
Exactly.
them?
Precisely, that is what
5 years ago, that's what the Ghana tourism, it was a board at the time?
Yes, it was.
Yes, that's what they kept saying. Now you are an authority, you keep saying the same thing. So what's the timeline then? How do you assure me, perhaps who wants to have an enterprise in the sector, that when I enter, I'm going to get the services that I need to complement what I provide as an investment?
Oh, I think the prospects are quite good, and I believe they are quite limitless. We have always been supporting the private sector. For instance, you wouldn't know, but most of the hotels which came to set up their businesses in Ghana, the first place to go to is to come to Ghana Tourism Authority, because they need the figures to make sure put their business plan together. And we have those figures.
In terms of what the throughput or the numbers that tend to
yes, the
patronize.
visitation and the receipts, and in terms of number of hotels in the system, number of rooms, number of beds, we furnish them with all this information for them to come up with a very good business plan and then take a decision whether to invest or not. They don't really invest out of vacuum. So these are some of the ways that we support the private sector. We also facilitate their benefiting from some exemptions through Ghana Investment Promotion Center. We do all that for the private sector. And then beyond that, those who are operating to, as I said earlier on, we keep on engaging them to help them to improve upon their services. For instance, the hospitality sector that I talked about, the training for them. And then the communities, host communities of tourist sites, and those who own attractions. We provide them with technical assistance as to how they can enhance their products. For instance, not too long ago, we all know of an incident that happened at the Bunsu Canopy Walkway. We quickly organized the Ghana Institution of Engineers to look at all the canopy walkways in the country and come up with ways that they can ensure that it will be safe for the patrons of those tourist sites. They looked at the Bunsu Canopy Walkway, look at one at Jay's Lodge at Boakye, and then look at the one at Aviation Center for the case, and then one at Tema, Ave Maria. They are yet to go to...
The one at Kaku, have we changed the ropes?
They are yet to go to Kaku. They do change it from time to time.
You mean they do patch it, the patch? I mean, have they changed the whole stretch?
I'm not sure of that one. But they'll be going there. They finish with these ones, and they'll be going to Kaku. So these are some of the ways that we support the private...
As practitioner, do you visit the places yourself, some of those places? Some of the tourist destinations?
Sure. By the nature of our work, certainly from time to time we'll be going to those places.
Well, this is a picture we took recently. It still looks like the same. Only, of course, you have... they mend the net somehow, but
they have regular maintenance of it.
Right. But Claire, how then do we encourage? Because I see Jumia all the time popping up on my sites, but I'm not encouraged to go and book a hotel because I feel you're expensive and things like that. But perhaps if I was attracted to it, I could afford. So locally, how do we want to attract a lot more people to the various sites?
It's actually funny that you say it's expensive because we actually have...
I'm not saying that.
Okay.
In my mindset.
All right, because we do actually have the best rates. We even have better rates most often than you would get in the hotel yourself. So that's actually to encourage you to book on our platform. What do we do to attract more domestic travel? We have resident rates. So, for example, as we just spoke about Cancun National Park, if you go there, you have two different rates. You have the rate for the foreign people who can afford a bit higher rate, but because we want to, encourage more Ghanaians to also travel, they also have a lower rate for Ghanaians.
So now, when I go to your site, for example, I'll find local.
We are working on that. Yes,
for some working on it.
Yeah, for some hotels we do, but we are trying to encourage more and more hotels. We believe that if they start looking at their own Ghanaian communities first, and if they make the rates a little bit lesser for them, so that they are able to travel as well, then they encourage the tourism in overall, and when the whole country
is this the first time you're hearing the idea about encouraging tourism locally, or the tourist travel?
No. We're working on that. We believe that if it starts from the own country before we can actually start, encouraging other people from outside to come to the country. So we are working on it.
Mr. Boakye, you encourage local tourism, not for us to travel to, let's say, Circle Dubai, the overhead or the interchange over there, and then say we've traveled. But let's say we have to travel to Mole National Park with a family of 3, maybe. The Easter period, the holiday period, or the Christmas period, or something like that. Do we encourage that?
It is a major policy of the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts, to the extent that they've come up with a program dubbed Explore Ghana, which they are collaborating with a number of tour operators to get Ghanaians to travel within Ghana. And not just that, they've also we are also collaborating with some tour operators to form tourist clubs at the basic and secondary schools, so that we can inculcate the habit of traveling amongst Ghanaians. I mean, just as the good book says, train up a child according to the way, and even when he grows up, he will not depart from it. It's in that spirit that the Ministry of Tourism, Culture and Creative Arts is collaborating with these tour operators. And prominent among the tour operators is Tosuka. It's been forming tourist clubs and basic schools, taking the school children to tourist sites with the hope that by the time they grow up, they kind of have that kind of habit traveling, just like you find in the Western world. I always say that domestic tourism is on the low side in Ghana, mainly because of our culture. It's not kind of our lifestyle. So if you need to address that problem, then you need to tackle it from that angle. To me, it's more of culture than availability of disposable
It
income.
means our culture disposes us not to travel.
We were not, that is not how we were brought up. You agree with me that if there's a funeral ceremony, you and all your colleagues at Joy FM, we didn't mind traveling maybe to Kumasi to go and mourn with your colleague. But how many of you will get up and say, let's travel to
And just go and spend
Menchia
a day
Palace?
or two.
Yes, go and spend a day or two. It's kind of a cultural challenge that we are addressing. That is why we are beginning it with we are addressing it from the youthful level. And I think so far, so good. So we are working very hard on promoting domestic tourism. And what the ministry has done so far is quite appreciable. And I believe if you continue to do it, we kind of make strides in promoting domestic tourism. And as Claire rightly said, you see, the international tourists even enjoy the destination better when they come and they realize that the local people participate in the events and also visit the tourist sites. They enjoy it better. So
Claire, where have you traveled in Ghana yourself?
I went to Central Region, Takoradi, to Eastern Region, Volta Region. And that's it. No, I've not went to the north myself yet. That's still in the planning.
You should try.
Yes.
You should put me on the bill.
All right, I'll take you along.
I'll pay the bill myself. I just want to visit, so don't worry about that as well. But then you have funding from the Ghana Tourism or the Ghana Tourist Fund. Is that it?
For
how do you get funding?
You mean GTA Ghana Tourism?
Yes.
How is it funded?
Yes. You get annual allocations.
Yes, we have our internally generated funds,
okay.
And then also government takes care of salaries and provides us with some amount of subvention.
How do you draw funding to complement some of the things that you want to do, especially when we know that it's not been budgeted for in the financial year's budget for a particular year?
Yes, that is where
the challenges.
The Tourism Development Fund comes in to support. You put a proposal together and then you submit it to the management board of the Tourism Development Fund. And if they look at the proposal and they think it's feasible and it's something that will push the sector forward.
The Tourism Development Fund, how much comes in or has been coming in averagely? And for which, okay, that's secret?
No, it's not secret, except that I'm not in a position to talk about that. There is a tourism fund administrator. He is more competent on those figures.
All right, we'll see how that goes. And well, the next booking, I have to make sure that now I'll be visiting Jumia. So
Sure.
yeah, I know that's not. But I just wish that we can encourage ourselves, because these days we have a lot more young people who perhaps can't afford. But you are saying it's a cultural thing.
But we have bookings from like 15 or 20 Ghana cedi upwards.
Yes, I know. I'm not talking about the affordability. I'm talking about the edge to go. Let's say knowing that I can go and do a booking and just have a travel time and go and spend a day or 2 or 3 days of my leave if I have an annual leave at all, and then come back and not think that I just went to walk on a canopy and it's nothing. You know, in Africa we don't tend to value some of those things.
I think it's just about changing the mindsets.
Yes.
And I think when we start promoting it in schools, at universities, when we start talking about travel, you see people are very interested in traveling abroad, but now we need to get them interested to traveling in their own country.
We want to go and see Rotterdam, Amsterdam,
yes,
London. and New York. Well, thank you very much. I've had in the studio Alex Boakye. He is with the Quality Assurance Division or Department of the Ghana Tourism Authority. And thanks for joining me, Mr. Boakye.
Thank you for having me.
And Clestyle is with Junior Travel Ghana. And if you go onto the internet, you get to find Junior Travel Africa. Nigeria, Kenya, and a couple of other countries as well. Thanks for joining me, Ken.
Thank you.
All right. We're taking a break. When we come back, we'll be discussing a lot more. Again, we should tell you that we're discussing the NDC, the content of their manifesto. Kojo Yankson, as well as Mama Biosu Abwaje, will be doing as those honest. We'll be discussing in detail sectorial areas in their manifesto. But also, it's just 13 days to the main election. Just in case you don't have an ID card, don't get worried. Just in case also you didn't go and check your name during the exhibition, just walk to your polling station and then you can vote even without an ID card. It's one of the tips we're giving you for the election. We're taking a break. When we come back, we'll have a lot more for you.
AM Business was brought to you by
EcoBank, the Pan-African Bank.